Okay, we're always looking for mankind's origins, and I've been definitely into it for a long time, trying to find out where the missing links are and things along that line. And quite often there's archaeological finds. There's never enough for all of us, but certain times you find things. People have been going in deep sub-Saharan Africa for years trying to find fossils, and they just find a lack of them. They haven't found them, but they did find something neat here recently, a few years back, and it's something I want to share with you. There's an article here that shows you they have a late Pleistocene human skull from Hofmeyr, South Africa, and it tells you it has modern human origins attached to it. There's a team of people here of 7 scientists that got together with it and repeatedly used testing onto it to see if they could figure out anything about it at all. Now, the lack of late Pleistocene human fossils from sub-Saharan Africa has limited paleontological testing of competing models of recent human evolution. We have dated a skull from Hofmeyr, South Africa to 36.2, give or take about 3.3 thousand years. So it would be, somewhere in the range of, 33 to, even older than the date projected, up to 39, almost 40,000 years ago. Through a combination of optically stimulated luminescence and uranium series dating methods, things that have been perfected here in the last 15 to 20 years. The skull is morphologically modern overall, but displays some archaic features still. Its strongest morphometric affinities are with Upper Paleolithic, or what they call UP, Eurasians, rather than the recent geographically proximate people, meaning Negroids. The Hofmeyr cranium is consistent with the hypothesis that UP Eurasians descended from a population of immigrated from sub-Saharan Africa in the late Pleistocene. And this is way down on the Horn of Africa. And so down in deep sub-Saharan Africa in Hofmeyr, if you know where that is, or you can always look it up. Probably should have opened with a map of it. But Hofmeyr, South Africa. Yeah, maybe I'll look it up real quick here and put it at the end of it. But again, so Caucasians, we always thought the out of Africa theory, and then that got busted here 20 years ago, where they found skulls that predated those way out over in Europe and Asia and around through the Levant and everywhere, really. And but now they have found some finds back in, and the weird thing about DNA is it shows a correlation of people that had changed over time in each location coming back together and then cross-mating some and then leaving again, and you end up with variations on a theme by doing that. But again, the startling evidence here is that South Africa, at least the Horn area of South Africa, Central Africa, Eastern Africa, where Egypt is, and North Africa, of course, was always Caucasians all the way around the Mediterranean, the whole loop of that. So, the Negroid original population before Bantu expansion, they always said, was just in the Ivory Coast area of deep West Africa, along the coast, and it does seem that that is definitely the case. So let's look for Hofmeyr, South Africa. Okay, so we can see down here that Hofmeyr is right down here near port area and close to the coast, and somewhere down on the Cape, what they call the Cape area here. It's a few hundred miles southwest of Johannesburg, near Bloemfontein, but this is the location that they're finding it at. And so deep sub-Saharan Africa. I mean, when we look at the ancient Egyptians, of course, it takes a long time for the Nile to come up here. The Nile comes from Lake Malawi, spilling into Lake Tanganyika, going through Burundi and Rwanda, kicking into the Lake Victoria, and then also spilling down through, continuing out, and then it runs through from here through what we know as Ethiopia nowadays. But most people don't know it, but when the Egyptians talk about Ethiopia, they're talking about anywhere in Africa but where the soil of the Nile Valley is. They had a few descriptive places. They had the Deseret, which became the desert, and it's the red-gray area that's out heading up towards Sahara. and then the other lands were known as Ethiopia, and it's the other lands basically is what it's just describing there. It never really was this place. I mean, people nowadays, I don't know how foolish people can be, but they're like, well, this state that has a border now, that's where they were going. And it's like, that is no idea where they were going. They were going to, a lot of times, to the North African coast of the Mediterranean and around there. That was Ethiopians to them, too. But as we come up around the Red Sea here, you can see how the Nile Valley develops right through here. And that here's Khartoum, that's right here. So originally Egypt was from here up and through Sudan all the way up. And they dropped it off to about here in later days. And then, of course, you had Upper Egypt, and then you have Lower Egypt down here, which doesn't make any sense on a map until you find out that this is higher ground and this is lower ground. And the way that the direction of the Nile flows is from here down to there, upper, lower. Yeah, they didn't look at it as being a north-south or that they felt like they were upside down in any way because they lived that way their entire time. But yeah, so way down here, let me zoom out a little bit and I'll give you a better appearance thing here. So when looking at the entire continent up here, of course, looks like the African people were all in the jungles through here and around the edges, all around in this area here, where the Gulf of Guinea capes around to it. But the Cape down here, this coast, all the way up through Egypt, and of course anything above Saharan Africa was impassable. And so all around the entire Mediterranean here, nothing stops you from walking and keep going left and keep going. Nothing stops you at all. In fact, people with boats can go across here. It's like 13 kilometers. But still, there's nothing to keep people from continuing to go, except for we start to become the Western Sahara Desert. And that kept these people from running into these people for a long, long, long time. Anyhow, like, share, and subscribe. But yeah, a Caucasoid skull has been found that seems to show a affinity with people in this area up here that is way down here in the Cape of South Africa, and it dates to 32 to 40,000 BC. And you can tell by the wording they use, it predates the Negroids in the area. Thanks. Y'all have a great day.